Welcome to the next episode of Burning Boxes and Breaking Chains, the podcast all about accountability. And we're going to be continuing the conversations today with my next guest, talking about ways that things we've realized in our life that it was my fault. Today, joining me is Alison Canavan. Alison is a globally recognized transformational speaker, wellness coach, and creator of the Energy Bank Method. It's a powerful framework that teaches people how to spend, save, and invest their energy to create meaningful change. Her journey from an international supermodel to mindfulness and leadership guide was forged not just in the spotlight, but through deep personal healing from addiction, burnout, mental health challenges, blending lived experiences with neuroscience, mindfulness, and decades of meditation practice. Alison brings a rare authenticity and practical tools to every conversation. She's on a mission to redefine success by helping individuals and leaders manage their energy, build resilience, and reconnect with purpose. Because as she teaches, energy is the true currency in our lives. Everybody, welcome Alison to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
I am so glad I met you a couple of months ago. And like I just mentioned before we started the recording, you have the unique distinction of being the first ever supermodel, international supermodel on the podcast. But also, you have the unique distinction that you're the only one I know that's a
So
supermodel.
there's no competition, but we won't mention that there's
You
no
won't mention
competition.
that.
We'll
Yeah.
just take
I'm like,
that.
yeah.
Oh.
So, so we'll start it off with, tell me sometime that in your past that you woke up one day and you looked at yourself in the mirror and you realized this was my fault.
No. Like there's like books and books and books that we could talk about with that.
That's the same answer I get from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if you even have like a little tiny nugget of self-awareness, I mean, I'd be super worried if someone went, never, not me. I've never had that. I'm like, okay. So many times. I mean, like, I think if we're really honest with ourselves, people have, I do anyway, have those thoughts a lot. And then we cover them over with, behavior to suppress or repress the fact that we feel bad about things. And even from the simplest little things, like, as a mom, of, raising your voice to your child and, not owning that, so that's one of my main things as a parent has been, my parents never, I didn't grow up in the era of emotional intelligence or talking about your emotions or how are you feeling today? Like that didn't exist. I'm from Ireland, in case anyone didn't guess the accent. And we're very good at talking about the weather and each other, but not about real things. So that level of depth of even conversation with yourself is deeply uncomfortable. So one of my things has been, how can I, when you talk about breaking change, how can I break the chains that bind me from my ancestry and from my past? And one of the things as a parent I want to do is own my stuff, is be able to have the courage to say, like, my son used to say to me that when I say, I'm really sorry for that this morning. And he'd say, it's okay, mom. And I would just pause and say, you know what, honey, it's actually not okay. Like, it's not okay for someone to do that. It's not okay that I raise my voice like that. Like, that's my stress, my anxiety. And that's not, this kind of delicate parenting people talk about or not having boundaries. Like, I don't really subscribe to that either. It's about showing them that you can own your stuff and apologize and step into your power. And it teaches them to do the same. Because what I learned growing up was that we don't talk about our stuff. We just bury it. We repress it. We suppress it. One of the phrases that was said to me a lot when I was growing up of just forgive and forget. Just forgive and forget. Like, just get on with it. And that's like, what message is that giving? It's like people can just do what they want, and then we forgive them, which is like just let them away with it, and then we move on with our life. And it teaches us like really wonky boundaries, and we keep letting people back in that shouldn't have access to us or our energy. So like waking up, I mean, I'm in recovery 11 years, Jeff. So, previous to that, most mornings were, oh shit, what did I do last night? Let's hope I get a text message from somebody letting me know where I was, or
Mm.
who I was talking to, or did I say anything I'll regret? Did I do anything I'll regret? Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, I hear you. And I found many years ago that waking up is way better than coming to in the morning.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. I love that so much. Waking up in so many ways, waking up consciously, waking your spirit up. Like there's something about drinking all the time that you never really get access to who you are. Like my soul died long before my physical body started suffering from alcohol. Like I look
Mhm.
at photographs from even when I was in my like 20s, when you're bulletproof and you can just go out drinking and, have 2 hours of sleep. And I was a model, wake up, get hair and makeup done, and you could easily make your way through the day. But I do look at those photographs and I see a vacancy in my eyes. I do.
Uh, I can relate to that. I felt the same way, even though
Mm.
I don't have too many photos of when I was a child and going into my teens, but I remember those days where I just felt empty.
Yeah.
And but today I am blessed that if I open my eyes in the morning, I know it's a great day because I open my eyes.
Yeah.
And then going into the day is always a choice. And that's where the accountability for me comes in is I'm accountable for not only my behavior, what I say, what I do, I'm accountable for my attitude during the day too. That's on
Hmm.
me. I can't let someone may cause a bad few moments in my day, but that's my choice if I let it ruin the whole day.
Absolutely. And I see like so much of my past self was rooted deep in the victim consciousness. And I think that ties in a lot with addiction. It's the poor me, the pity me, the why me. And I think there's sometimes a genuine belief because our beliefs determine our energy, our focus, our attitude, how we show up, how we are in
Oh,
relationships.
absolutely.
And I do think there was like a genuine belief there that like the world owed me something. Like if I wasn't working, I would call my agency and I'd be like, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? Like if I was arguing with my boyfriend, it's like, why aren't you being a better partner, doing this more? Like it was always outside in, but it was genuinely like the addiction, not only to partying, but the addiction to that negativity. Like that's a real addiction. Like that, it gives you a charge,
Oh, yeah.
like focusing on the negative, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like it's kind of exciting in a way. Like even talking about it now, I can feel a charge in my body. And we get addicted to that frequency. And then we keep pulling everything into our reality from that frequency. So we keep pulling
Oh,
in people who are only too happy to have 2 hour conversations about like the state of the world or other people or how it's everyone else's fault. And since I have done the work and taken full responsibility, which is not an easy path for
no, I agree.
anybody.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. It's it's so life changing because now I don't have the capacity or space for people who are in that. I can't hold a conversation. Like I feel icky when people start gossiping. It just doesn't resonate with who I am today. And it doesn't mean that I'm in any way perfect, but I police myself. And that doesn't mean like I'm really strict and I'm not relaxed. But I journal every day and I really ask myself hard questions. What part did you play in that? Like, what's the reason you brought that up in your conversation? And we were just talking about something just before we
Mhm.
came on.
Yeah.
And that level of self awareness brings the most incredible inner freedom into your
Oh,
life.
and I'm gonna tell you what, it makes you to me, I think that's my superpower.
Yeah.
Is I'm able to question myself about why did I say this? Why did I do that? Why am I acting this way? And then what am I getting out of it? Because I'm getting something out of it if
Mm.
it's not good behavior. I mean, either getting the recognition or I'm getting the sympathy from people or whatever it may be, but I'm getting something. And that brutal honesty to have with yourself is to me is so liberating to be able to know that, was listening to Jim Rohn this morning. He said, someone
Mhm.
who is in control of their mind to
Yeah.
that degree is a dangerous person because you can't control them.
Yeah.
And I said, yep. Because people, I love it when people say, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You want to hide and watch? I'll do it
Mm.
twice and take pictures. Don't tell me I can't do it. I can't walk away from a situation and somebody never speak to me again. I'll walk. If
Yeah.
it's not benefiting me and feeding my soul, watch me walk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the point that I've gotten to with the accountabilities. I know I'm responsible for me. I'm
Yeah.
responsible to pay my bills and do things the right way and treat people correctly, which
Hmm.
I strive to do every day. Just be nice to people. It's so easy. I'd
It
have to
is
go
so
out of my way to
easy.
be mean to
Yeah.
somebody, and that's not how the person I've become over the last 40 years.
But it just takes, when we talk about energy, it takes so much energy, so much mental energy. Like people underestimate, like when people ask me, because I teach about energy, and I'm like, it's the mental energy. Like people worry,
Mhm.
overthink, they go over and over and ruminate constantly about things that really don't matter. And they give their energy to things like that. Mental energy sucks all of your life force quicker than anything else.
I
Quicker than
totally
like
agree.
4 hours in the gym or running a marathon. It's like that's actually life giving in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. It's quite expansive. But it's interesting that I always say if you transform your mind, you'll transform your life.
Absolutely. I totally
And
agree with that.
and
That is,
nobody, there's
you
go
talk
on.
about that energy being draining. No, I think
Mm,
that's why a lot of people suffer from depression because it just
yes.
wears them out.
Yeah. And there's a trajectory to it. I suffered from depression for years and years and years and years until this amazing person I was working with in Ireland said one, sometimes someone says one sentence, Jeff, do you ever notice that? And it just shifts something in you forever. Someone said to me, depression is a lack of expression. Boom. It was
Wow.
like everything made sense. Yes, it is a lack of expression. I was in a family where I couldn't express myself. I felt like I couldn't really speak my truth because I
Mhm.
would get punished for it. So yes, all of everything, my true nature, my reason for being here, my own energy, my own energetic imprint was repressed and suppressed. And I also had a complete inability to meet the more difficult parts of myself or the more difficult emotions or the heavier emotions. So, yes, I was repressed. So, my energy was very heavy, and therefore I struggled with really deep, dark depression. And so, like, if I feel that kind of energy coming on now, I have an entire set of tools that I use. I practice self inquiry, I sit with uncomfortable feelings, I go out for a walk, which, by the way, if you're depressed, exercise, move your body, go for a walk, get
Mhm.
out into nature, sit in fresh air. But until we like really learn to be comfortable with all of our emotions, we're very biased with ourselves.
Oh,
We're,
absolutely.
we're very biased as a culture and as a society, which is the reason why we have the worst mental health epidemic that we've ever had in human history, because we are taught that the more difficult emotions like grief and sadness and loneliness are a problem. First of all, they're a problem. There's an entire industry that has been built around our negative emotions. There
Oh,
is
yeah.
people making billions out of your negative emotions, which are part of life's experience and journey since the
Mhm.
beginning of man, right?
Yep.
Like you break up with someone, you experience heartache, you lose loved ones, you experience deep, dark grief. The deeper the grief, the more you loved,
Oh, yeah.
but we're not allowed go there. We're so we medicate it away. We numb it. Like you said something earlier, about behavior. And I always have a phrase that I say to myself, which is, okay, why are you doing this? Like if I notice a certain behavior or a tendency towards maybe eating too much sugar or having another green tea, we're past the days of alcohol and drugs, obviously. But I still pay attention to my own behavior because every behavior is meeting a need. So my work is like, what need is being met by this right now? And
Mhm.
that's the part of me that's looking for love. That's the part of me that's looking for my attention. If I'm scrolling on my phone and I'm scrolling more than I ever have, or every second I have, I sit and I scroll on my phone. I'm like, okay, so every behavior meeting a need. What are you avoiding right now, Alison? What are
Mhm.
you avoiding? And it's really powerful work when you learn to practice self inquiry because you stop outsourcing your power. You
Yep.
naturally start to have much stronger boundaries, but they're effortless boundaries. You know,
Oh yeah.
when you try to enforce boundaries when you haven't done the work, that's hard work. That's like trying to moderate your drinking. And we all know that doesn't work.
Well, and no, that doesn't work at all. You know, it's like the boundaries and stuff that you set for yourself, and it becomes if you do this enough, it
Yeah.
becomes a second nature habit. So you can catch yourself instantly when you start to say something negative or you start to do something negative, or those thoughts in your head. You
Hmm.
mentioned a little bit ago though, and I had to chuckle. That sometimes somebody can make a statement to you that just makes a huge impact. Many years ago, when I was working to change myself, and it was about the blame game. I can't do this
Hmm.
because of this. I can't do this because of that, or these people are holding me back. Guy looked me right in the eye, and I think that's where I got the mantra that I use now of having straightforward and honest conversations. He looked at me. He goes, "Who the hell do you think you are that everybody owes you something?" And I went,
Oh, yeah.
wow. And that's still the way
Yeah.
I apply things today. Who am I? I am not all that in a bag of chips and a bowl of grits. I am a grain of sand on the beach of life. I am not
Yeah.
that damn important. And I quit taking myself that important back then. And it's like I apply that today. In every situation, it's like I can't make this about me. I'm not that big a deal, you know.
And we do it in, I
Ah,
love that. It's so powerful. And we do it in the most subtle ways all the time. So, like, I'm 11
mhm.
years in recovery, right? So, but that doesn't stop that coming in when it's like,
Oh,
I'm going to the gym. And then that little voice comes in with all the 50,000 different reasons why you can't go to the gym today. Or like when you're doing something that you know is life-giving, is beneficial for you, like that little voice comes in. And it takes a lot for me to kind of get real with myself and say, okay, here's you getting in your own way, preventing yourself from doing the things that are important. And I have to have really honest chats with myself. And it's like, there is never a time that I've gone to the gym or I've done something that I've regretted it. It's
oh
like,
yeah.
I always feel good afterwards. But it's that little voice. And that's why awareness is so powerful. Like people are like, what's the first step to change? And I'm like, your willingness to be truly aware. Like I don't mean
Mhm.
just aware of how amazing you are and how good everything is. Like that's easy. We can all do that. We don't need help with that. But to be really aware of the shittier sides of you, excuse my language. Because that's the things that people aren't willing to look at in relationships, in themselves. I mean, that's the only way you're going to free yourself.
Well, I got to tell you, when you mentioned that about the bad sides of you, that was the thing when people say have asked me before if I
Mm,
have regrets about some of the stuff that I did early on, and I'm like, no, I can't afford that
mm,
because I had to be brutally honest with myself, whether there was alcohol or other mind or body altering stuff involved. That at that moment in time, that's exactly what I wanted,
yeah.
good, bad, or indifferent. And that
Hmm.
that honesty with myself was very freeing.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I work hard to not go back to that. There
I
was a
mean,
time when I was making changes that I got into it with my father. And he said, "Well, hey, if you can quit smoking, you can quit drinking, quit doing all this." And I said, "Pop," I said, "I want to tell you something." I said, "I'm not going, this is working for me." I said, "I'm
mm,
not going back to that lifestyle for you or anybody else." And I
mm.
was looking him dead in the eye, and it developed a level of respect with him. And he never challenged me on that before. If it was working for me, it's like, this is my path to walk, not anybody else's. I'm the one that went down the wrong path, and now I'm the one climbing up out of that hole. So, and I'm not going to listen to other people, and I'm not definitely when I'm climbing out of that hole, I'm not going to be listening to them crabs trying to drag me back in that bucket. It ain't going to happen,
And
you
it's
know.
interesting when you even use that analogy of crabs trying to grab me back in that bucket. When you are looking at somebody else and you're thinking that they should be, do, say, behave something differently than they are, you're not focused on yourself. And that doesn't
Mm-mm.
mean we don't serve. It doesn't mean we don't support. It doesn't mean we don't help. But usually when we're critiquing, criticizing, trying to pull someone back to our level again, we're not doing the work and we're not showing up for ourselves. And even with parenting, I had an amazing coach last year where I was saying something about, well, it's annoying me that James leaves his bedroom untidy, teenage boy, or does this in the bathroom. And she's like, it's not your responsibility to control every aspect
Hmm.
of him.
That's
Like, he's a
true.
teenager, now leave it. Like, it was sometimes when things are said, it's counterintuitive to, how we're brought up,
Oh yeah.
like that, this person. I had a client the other day who was saying that somebody borrowed something and returned it and put it back in its place, right? But she was still stuck on the part of the story where they didn't say thank you. So I'm like, okay, interesting. Let's reframe this. So this is like, but this is because when we're indoctrinated with stories like, so I do an experiment with my clients called first thought, and it has to be your first thought. Like, you can't linger on it because your rational, logical mind starts getting involved. First thought will tell you the truth. Okay. If you're brave enough to have the first thought. So it's like people who don't say thank you are rude, disrespectful, not people to be around, blah, 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 blah. And then that's what's driving your behavior. Whatever
Mhm.
your belief system is underneath is what's driving your behavior. So we did a lot of work around it. And she's like, oh my God, I feel like I've just like lifted 100 pounds off my shoulders. And I'm like, isn't it interesting that one tiny story can weigh on us without us even thinking about it? Because when she holds the idea that that person did something to her, first of all, there's no evidence that that person did anything to her.
Nope.
They actually borrowed something, she gave it because she wanted to, and they brought it back. But she got stuck on they didn't say thank you. Now, how many of us, and I'm using the simplest example because
Hmm.
sometimes the simplest example is easier for each and every one of us to recognize. Where do I do that? And we start going, God, I do that all the time. When my husband says this, or when my friend says this, or when my child does this, like, we do it a lot. We get hung up on
Yeah.
nonsense with
It's
no evidence to back it up.
none, none. I get it. I mean, it's like when I hold a door for somebody. If the thought will cross my
Yes.
mind and like, you're welcome, but I don't say anything because then I have to look at me and go, listen, I'm not doing it for the
Yes.
accolade or the appreciation. I'm doing it, and it's not because of who they are. I'm doing it because of who I am.
Yeah.
I am that guy that knows how to hold a door or let someone into traffic. They don't have to wave to say thank you. I'm doing it for me, not doing it for
And
them.
it's the intentionality is really important because I
Absolutely.
know when my intentions are aligned and I'm doing something because I want to serve, give, whatever, I don't even think about stuff like that. When my
No.
intentions are not aligned and I'm in a transactional energy,
Mm-hmm.
then I think, God, I didn't even like, say thank you. Whereas I could hold the door open all day and I probably wouldn't even notice whether people said thank you or not if I'm in an aligned energy. But
Yeah.
if I'm not, then I'm like giving from the wrong place and space. Like, so I always say to myself, don't hold open the door if you're in that energy. Just don't, because you don't really want to open the door for the person, right? Like, that's kind of the level of, you know, honesty we have to have with ourselves. Because when we
Oh.
give with zero expectation, that is when we're connected with the law of circulation. That's what we're here to do. That's why I always think of look at the word forgiveness. I love words. Like, we are here in human bodies to experience forgiving. So the world is forgiving. We're here to give, right? So
Mm-hmm.
to serve. And so that's where
Absolutely.
forgiveness comes from. And in the world of forgiveness, we are forgiving one perception over for another, because that's all we're doing when we're forgiving. What we're doing is saying, maybe sometimes, like when you go through stories, you can say, okay, so if I had that person's life and I had all those experiences they've had, could I potentially have ended up in the position where I would have done what that person did? And a lot of the times I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I could.
Yeah.
From that place, I can now forgive. Doesn't mean I have to let the person in my life or talk to them again or have anything to do with them, but I can at least shift my energy enough to understand their behavior and be able to forgive the situation from that place. And I think forgiveness, because I was brought up in the Catholic Church, was quite toxic when I was growing up. It
Mm-hmm.
was very heavy. It was like something you had to do, not something that you got to do through doing the work and through choosing to let someone go. And then when you get to the much deeper work of what you just said, is understanding that, like, it's not. anybody's job to make me happy.
Nope.
Like
Nope.
as soon
That's
as
an internal job.
as soon as I think like my partner, my kids, my friends should be doing something for me, I'm
Mm-mm.
going to suffer.
That's
That's the
it.
problem. I'm going to suffer
That's an inside
because,
job. You're the
yeah.
only one that can do that. And that's why, it's like success. It's not
Hmm.
based on the accolades and stuff. That's a self definition. That's something that only you can define what you consider success to be in your life. So,
Yeah. And success for me, like these days, is if something is going to take 16 hours of your day, but you're going to build a big business, but you don't get to spend any time with your kids, and then your business grows, and the next thing your kids are in their late teens and they've grown up and you've missed everything. All the
mhm,
football, soccer games, you haven't been there for any part of their moments of growth and celebration, but you were building a business for them. Is that really success? Like,
mhm,
and it's so different for everybody. I think everybody has to define it on their own terms. For me,
absolutely.
success is inner peace. That's success.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not going to let anybody interrupt my
No,
inner peace. Nobody.
no.
That's not going to happen. So, Allison, we're coming at the end of this 30 minutes. So, if to the audience that's going to be listening to this, if you could give them a piece of advice on how they might hold themselves accountable and make a difference in their life, what would you tell them?
I would first of all take responsibility for how you show up. And when we come from an energetic perspective, like looking at how you spend your energy. So, do you constantly overgive? Are you leaking energy by not taking care of yourself, not investing in yourself, not looking after this beautiful body, not really tending to your own needs? Because if you don't fill your cup first, you can't really authentically give to anybody else. And
Amen.
it's really important, I think, in today's world to have that moment of awakening. When you said I'd rather wake up, right? And to have that moment of awakening, to just get conscious about, how am I really living? Is it serving me? Is it serving the person that I would love to become? And keep it super simple,
Uh,
right? Take stuff out, don't add stuff in. We live in a world where people are way overscheduled. So if you want to
oh,
make any changes, take stuff out, don't add in.
there you go. Allison, thank you so much for your time today. And I will be posting a schedule here this week on when this is going to happen over the next couple of months. I'm dropping a podcast episode every 2 weeks. So y'all look
Amazing.
forward to listening to Allison. Thanks for being here today, Allison.
Thank you for having me.